How to love working hard. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can rewire your brain to love to work hard. And we're going to do this by removing achievement-free dopamine. My name is Cormac, and when I was 17 years old, I was so lazy, I was so unproductive, that I was told by a doctor that I had ADD and I had to take medication to make my brain work properly. The reality is I didn't have ADD, there was nothing inherently wrong with my brain. I had just been providing my brain with so much achievement-free stimulation that it made everything impossible to do. It made it so hard for me to do hard work. I've been able to completely flip that around. I now absolutely love working hard. I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that. So first of all, what is achievement-free dopamine? Achievement-free dopamine is effectively receiving dopamine, which is a feel-good chemical, from doing something that is not linked to an achievement, to progress, to moving you forward in your life. Maybe 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, the only way that you could receive any form of dopamine, any way that for your brain to tell you, good job, you did well, was to achieve something. The highest stimulation, most dopamine releasing activities that you could do 1,000 years ago was really something like conquering a village or killing an animal, feeding your family. Nowadays, the highest stimulation, highest dopamine activities that you can do, other than doing drugs, is scrolling social media, is watching porn, right? Playing video games. What's the difference between these activities and the things that produce dopamine 1,000 years ago? Well, the big difference is that 1,000 years ago, to receive that dopamine, you actually had to accomplish something. You had to do something that was going to move your life forward in a positive way, to help yourself and help your family. Nowadays, you receive the most dopamine from literally sitting on your ass all day. Now, why is this bad? Well, dopamine is released, it makes you feel good. In a way, it's your brain reinforcing you to continue to do a certain behavior. So, if I did something that received an extreme amount of dopamine, my brain is basically telling me, good job, that is a great activity. I want you to keep doing that over and over and over again. So what happens if we do something like scroll social media, scroll TikTok, for example, and we receive a huge surge of dopamine? Our brain's going to go, I want to feel that again. You need to keep doing that. So it continues to reinforce that behavior over and over and over again. Now, why is this a problem? Let's say I'm trying to get in shape, right? I need to exercise more. Well, when you have the contrast of I could lie in bed and scroll TikTok, or I could go for a workout, what is going to produce more dopamine? Lying on my ass and scrolling TikTok is going to produce more dopamine. The contrast there is huge. Your brain is going to want you to lie in bed and watch TikTok, which is releasing dopamine, every single day of the week. It's not going to want you to go for a run because it's like, I feel way worse when you do that than when you just scroll your phone. The issue is, nearly everything that we have in our lives right now in modern society is encouraging us to effectively do nothing. It is stimulating us to do as little as possible. By the way, if you guys are liking this stuff, if you want to learn more, I have a completely free course on how to rewire your brain to love doing difficult things. If you want to check that out, I'll leave it in the link below, or you can go to school.com/modernmonk. Otherwise, keep enjoying the video. So the biggest culprits of achievement-free dopamine right now is short-form social media content, porn, video games, watching Netflix, TV shows, movies. These are the biggest forms of achievement-free dopamine. I think for most people, this is their biggest issue. So what happens when we hit these huge spikes? We get these huge surges in dopamine throughout the day, all day, every day. What's going to happen is that because we're getting these huge peaks, our brain's going to go, something's not really right here. Something doesn't quite add up. And what it's going to do is it's going to go, you need to come back to reality, mate. We're going to have to bring all of your dopamine back down. What does that mean? Well, that means you're going to receive less dopamine from the TikTok you're watching, less dopamine from the video games you're watching, but you're also going to receive less dopamine from things like exercising, things like doing work, things like brushing your teeth. Everything produces less dopamine. what does it mean if everything produces less dopamine? That means that everything is less enjoyable. And what happens if everything is less enjoyable? Well, everything becomes more difficult. And what happens if everything becomes more difficult? It means you're way less likely to do it. If me going for a run, for example, was a absolutely mountainous task, something that I really, really don't want to do, am I more or less likely to go for that run than if I'm really looking forward to it? If I know that gives me a little boost in dopamine. It's probably going to be a lot easier if I actually look forward to it rather than I'm dreading it because everything in my life produces significantly less dopamine. So what do we have to do about this? How can we fix our brain so that we start actually enjoying difficult things more? Well, we have to remove achievement-free dopamine. So where is the best place to start? Well, the best place to start is going to be where you're receiving the biggest spikes of dopamine in the shortest period of time. Biggest examples for this right now is going to be short form social media content, your TikToks, your Instagram reels, stuff like that, and your porn. These two give you the biggest spikes in the shortest period of time. We want to get rid of these because we want to bring these peaks down as quickly as possible so we can raise our dopamine back up to reality so we're getting more dopamine from these rewarding activities. So you need to decide what for me right now is producing the biggest spike in the lowest period of time. You have to identify that and you have to figure out how can I get this out of my life. This is the framework I think you should think about when you're trying to get these things out of your life. You should be thinking to yourself, how can I add as much friction in place as possible to make it as difficult as possible to do these activities? Whatever that looks like to you, you need to make sure you're adding as much friction in place to make it as difficult as possible to do these activities. For example, if I want to stop eating junk food, I'm not going to put a bowl of cookies next to me at all times. Why would I do that? Why would I have something right next to me that I know is going to prevent me from achieving my goals? I have no friction in place there. It's visible, it's inside, it's easily accessible. So, for example, if you want to stop watching TikTok, probably a good place to start is deleting TikTok. Seems like a pretty reasonable place to start. You could also do things like adding blockers, adding app blockers to prevent you from accessing it. You could do a bunch of different things, but you need to add as much friction in place as possible to prevent you from doing those activities. Now, this will be a gradual process. This might take a few months. This might take a year, right? But at the end of it, you could literally be at a position where the only things that are providing you dopamine are things that are moving you towards your goals. For example, for me right now, probably the most enjoyable part of my day is working out. For most people, that is the least enjoyable part of their day. That's the thing they hate the most because they have so many things that are providing them more stimulation than working out. But if you put yourself in a position where you're getting the same amount of dopamine from a workout than you were from watching TikTok, life is pretty good. You're probably going to get a whole lot more done. So let's think about how can we over time get rid of as many of these things as possible. You can choose how extreme you want to take it, but at the end of the day, if you're at a position where you received zero stimulation that was not moving you towards your goals, you would become a machine. All you'd do is just want to accomplish goals, want to move forward and progress in life, because the only way that you get that enjoyment out of life is by actually moving you towards your goals, not by horizontally lying on your bed and watching TikTok for a few hours. A lot better way to live, in my opinion, because the dopamine is going to come either way. It's just, do we want everything in our life to suck because the only things that we enjoy in life are putting a screen against our face and watching pixels move? Or do we want to get our enjoyment in life from progressing, from becoming better versions of ourselves? You need to make that decision because at the end of the day, it's a whole lot easier to just sit on your ass and watch pixels move on your screen. But who is going to achieve more? The person who just looks at pixels on their screen, or the person that's actively pursuing their goals and is loving the process? So the third thing that we have to do in order to love working hard is that we actually need to put actions in place that are moving us towards our goals. Because it's all well and good to remove all this stimulation, remove all these activities that aren't moving us towards our goals. But if you are in no way taking action to move you towards your goals, then nothing's going to happen. You're still going to stay in the same spot. You need to make sure that you're taking the action. So the way I think about doing this is you always want to do the highest priority task. Think about, if I could only accomplish one thing this year, if there's only one thing in this entire year that I could accomplish, what would that be? From there, after you've identified what is the one thing that I want to do, you need to identify the 2 to 3 things that are going to move you towards that goal the fastest, the most, and you need to start adding those into your life. Because at the end of the day, if you have no action, if all you're doing is sitting there like in complete Zen mode, doing nothing, you're not going to accomplish anything. You still have to fill the time with action. But you're going to start really enjoying this action now that you don't have all this exterior stimulation pulling your attention in 50 different ways, reducing your dopamine. But you have to identify what are the actions I need to take, and you need to start implementing them into your life. Just as it might be a gradual process to take things out, to remove the stimulation, it might also be a gradual I can't say process today. It might over time be a gradual process of adding things back into your life. So I would almost do a 1-for-1. Start replacing a bad activity with a good activity. Over time, maybe, a month from now, it's not going to be that noticeable, but in 6 months' time, if you've replaced 6 of the most stimulating things in your life that weren't moving you towards your goals, and you've added 6 of the highest impact things that are going to move you towards your goal, you're going to be a completely different person. And that's just 6 months from now. What happens 2 years from now? You are just going to be completely unrecognizable. You will be a completely different person. You have destroyed all of your goals most likely, and you'll be looking for bigger things. You'll be thinking, damn, that was actually pretty easy, and I actually kind of enjoyed doing that. So that is exactly how we can rewire our brain to love working hard. It is simple, but it's not easy. If you enjoyed this video, please please subscribe. This is a new channel, so if you want to be an OG, a day one, then I would much appreciate it. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video.